The ReZero community is one that is a bit decisive to say the least. So recently I went ahead and asked you guys for your hottest ReZero takes and to tell me what that is, and today I want to have a video going over that. The ReZero community is one where I have seen many insane takes, and I want to discuss a few of them and go over what you guys personally think are your hottest takes and takes that you consider, different from what the majority believes. So like I said, that is exactly what this video today is going to be about. If you're into this type of content and you enjoy ReZero and you like this type of anime style analysis content in general, make sure to leave a like and subscribe and check out my membership link in the description below if you want to support me directly. Anyways, let's just go ahead and get right into the video. The first one is going to be that Echidna is by far the most interesting character within ReZero, and more specifically the most interesting antagonist within ReZero. Enjoying how she is always present, whether it be through spirits or her clones and stuff like that. And I personally would have to agree with this take. I'm not sure how hot of a take this is, considering this was the most comment on the poll, but yeah, Echidna's presence is always there within ReZero. No matter what arc you look at, her actions have dictated and had some sort of implication into it, and it is exactly why I personally think she is going to be the final antagonist within ReZero, along with the fact that Tappei kind of spoiled it within his own Q&As, but that's besides the point. Look at arcs 1 through 4. All of these are dictated by Roswell's actions, and most of the predicaments that Subaru is put into outside of, the White Whale and stuff like that come from Roswell's Book of the Gospel that was given to him from Echidna. After this, arc 4 itself, is derivative of Echidna's own actions, and within arc 5, the witch cults are there for looking for the Book of the Gospel. Arc 6, her presence is made notable through the artificial spirit, and arc 7 and 8, we know the main antagonist for those arcs is, derivative of Echidna herself and her past failed abilities and trials and examinations. So overall, I'd give this not really a hot take. I think this is a pretty clear take, and really I think it's just Tappei, putting her everywhere behind the scenes very subtly, and a very good character moment for her. She is so mysterious, so interesting. Her true motives, true narratives, we don't fully know yet. We don't know what she's going for. We've had a bit more revealed within arc 9, but even up until this point right now, we are still not 100% sure. So I give this take a thumbs up. Next up, and this one's actually a pretty hot take, is being that ReZero is carried by Subaru. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with this take, but I feel like that's not a fair assumption to make of a series. Subaru is the driving force of ReZero. ReZero at most and at first is a character study and a character-driven narrative. I don't like when people bring up these things and be like, oh, if you removed insert character, the story wouldn't be as good. Well, yeah, obviously, that character is the one driving the story forward. Obviously, if you removed Subaru from ReZero, ReZero wouldn't be as good, as a lot of the narratives and implications within ReZero is built upon Subaru's own personal struggles and his own personal character, in which a lot of the dynamics within ReZero are very interconnected and parallel to own of Subaru's struggles. That being said, I still think ReZero is an amazing series outside of Subaru, and this is so indicative if you actually look into and read the side stories. While I do think Subaru contributes greatly to, the narrative of ReZero and it being amazing, there is still so much good content outside of this. Look at characters like Wilhelm and Theresia and, the love story and stuff like that they have within the EX novels. No, Subaru's presence is within the EX novels, and those are all still amazing stories within themselves. So to go forth and say that ReZero as a story, it's not there that much without Subaru is, I feel like, narratively, misguiding the series a bit. And also strawmanning Tappei's writings, considering he has built a very in-depth world outside of Subaru. Sure, the best parts of ReZero are driven by Subaru, but I feel like that's just indicative of ReZero in general. Return by Death is an ability that where Subaru is going to need to be present. Without Return by Death, we're not it kind of goes hand in hand. So, while I don't 100% disagree, I do think Subaru is the driving force of ReZero, and I do think he is leagues and bounds above the best character within the series. I think there is a lot to go on within the series outside of Subaru, and characters that have their own identities, own struggles, their own narratives. Look at the whole Australia narrative with Reinhard, Wilhelm, and Heinkel. Tappei has said himself that Heinkel would be the main character if not for Subaru. So to throw that whole narrative and storyline to the side and say that, oh, without Subaru, ReZero wouldn't be that good, I feel like that's a bit dismissive and strawmanning Tappei's writing a bit, so I disagree a bit with that one. Next up is that out of all of the antagonists within the series, Rui is by far the best, and the Gluttony trio is by far the best Sin Archbishops. I half agree with this, I don't agree with this. On the fact that the Gluttony trio is the best of the Sin Archbishops, I personally agree with that. I feel like their writing and their narrative implication within ReZero is leaps and bounds ahead of anyone else's writing and narrative implications within ReZero. I mean, even up until now, the Gluttony trio is still wreaking havoc within ReZero, and they have been the driving narrative factor for so much of ReZero. I actually have my personal own hot take a bit, and I feel like Tappei uses the Gluttony trio as a bit of a crutch for writing at times to not kill characters, but instead, narratively kill them, taking away their memories, names, and identity. While I don't think it is necessarily a bad thing, it is just something that I did notice when reading the series, as it is a bit of a crutch. But being that said, these characters, due to this crutch, have just been made so amazing and are so good. All three of them, even up until now, somebody like Roy, who many people hated, is getting amazing story moments within the series, and just all of them together are great. As for Rui being the best antagonist within ReZero, I personally don't have her as my favorite antagonist, although she is up there. She is definitely top 2, top 3. I don't want to go too much into spoilers due to future arcs and stuff like that, but her moments, her narratives, her dynamics with future characters are genuinely amazing, and what ends up happening is also really good, and the foil she plays to a certain somebody is just really good, and what she gets to see and view is something that no other character within ReZero, or almost no other character within ReZero, has had the ability to do so. So I think she's an amazing character. I just have a couple of characters that I like more, like Echidna, who I think by the end of the story is going to be a top 3 ReZero character without a doubt in my mind. The next hot take is going to be that the royal candidate members are completely different people from they were in Arc 3 to Arc 5, and that Tappei had to narratively isolate Subaru, and which led to a bit of plot holes rising from this. I do see where you are coming from, and I think it is a bit strange, and the switch up is definitely there. I feel like some of that implications has a lot to do with more of stuff that is cut, and the anime not really portraying their full characters that amazingly. Then it has to do with Tappei having plot holes and having to force Subaru down this hole. Subaru within the novels is seen even more batshit crazy, and Roswell definitely puts on a bit of a show within the novels within Arc 3. An example of this that was cut from the anime is Subaru is driven to the point of borderline insanity so bad that within Arc 3 and his conversation with Crusch, he literally picks up a spoon and starts threatening her with a literal spoon. And the reason I think they were being so dismissive of Subaru then versus how they are within Arc 5 is because Subaru was a random person who was dismissed by his own camp himself. I mean, you gotta think, they did not know this guy at that time, and he's going to them freaking out, tweaking, spewing random things, which may be true, but the implications that composes for them is they're risking their own lives to throw themselves into this challenge and risking their own camp and their own problems, and putting themselves on the forefront like that for another camp within the royal candidacy is very strange, especially when the other camp within the royal candidacy is not even agreeing with Subaru, as Emilia at that point had literally thrown him off to the side and it didn't even want his presence anymore anywhere near the Emilia camp. Subaru was acting batshit insane at that moment, rightfully so, but rightfully so in a way that nobody else could know, just Subaru. So I get your complaint, and it is a bit frustrating, and Tappei probably did stretch it a bit there, but I felt like the narrative implications that carried and the connotation it brought forth for Subaru's characters and his low moments and his high moments that we see within Arc 3, and the ability that Tappei was able to completely develop Subaru's character and start from zero and really set the story forth and get the story going is a much more indicative as to why the characters are so much nicer to Subaru within Arc 5, because they have seen this struggle and they have seen how Subaru was able to get through these challenges. So willingly within Arc 5, they are obviously going to give him more respect and treat him with more stuff. I mean, you also have to take into account that they figured out that Subaru dealt with some stuff in Arc 4 within the Sanctuary and got rid of the Great Rabbits, another, Great Witch Beast within the world. So obviously Subaru is going to moniker more respect from them. And on top of this, Subaru and Emilia weren't even the ones who called people to Priscilla, or Pristella, my bad, not Priscilla, that was Anastasia's camp. So it's all a bit different. So yeah, I disagree with that take a bit. Next up is that Arc 7 and Arc 8 should have been at least 3 light novels shorter. I actually kind of do agree with this one. I think Arc 7, and not as much Arc 8, specifically Arc 7's length really plays to its own hindrance. And you can really tell at times within Arc 7 that Tappei did not have this 100% planned out, and it was not originally within the narrative of ReZero. There are moments within Arc 7 that I felt could have been shortened greatly. Like the moments on Gladiator Island, I felt like that got drawn out for so long. Also felt like Tappei, you know, didn't really have much direction at times within arc 7 and arc 8, and he was kind of just like running around avenues that he found interesting. There are character moments too within this for characters that we will probably never see again within ReZero, and it's not to say that this is bad by any sort of means. It is just not what fans were looking for, you know? Look at, I mean, we're on arc 9 right now, and we're back focusing on the main cast and the main crew, and I've never seen the ReZero fandom more active without the anime being here in like forever. It's not that the stories in arc 7 and arc 8 are bad or the character moments are bad, because they are good. It's just Tappei got a bit sidetracked and got tunnel visioned on that arc, in my opinion, and what this guy is saying in the comments here, and I definitely think he went on a bit more than he should have. I feel like Tappei has kind of a bit of a problem to go on and ramble sometimes, and you know, instead of progressing the plot forward, the pacing can get definitely a bit strange within arc 7 and arc 8, and you can feel that in the length, and it reflected within the sales. So yeah, I agree with that take. Next up, this is gonna be a pretty controversial one if I had to guess, and it's that Tappei plays too much into the childlike characters of ReZero and the childlike designs and, you know, the lowly mancer stuff. And I personally agree with this. I feel like there is no need for this a lot of the time within the stories, and I know the lowly mancer thing is such jokes, and you know, Tappei's not being serious, at least with Subaru's character, but the implications it carries, and it is a bit weird. You know, I personally just don't like it, and I feel like it is a place that leaves a bit of a stain on ReZero when you're trying to recommend it to people, because one of the most popular edits of your shows are people calling your main character the little girl user, or, you know, characters within the series saying that, you know, it just carries a pretty negative connotation, and it is hard for people to get into ReZero. So I 100% agree with that take. I think the character designs within ReZero are definitely a bit too much at times within the light novels. I am happy the anime tones this down. This one's not a hot take. Tappei shouldn't have introduced Hoshin in the Isekai Quartet movie. Yeah, fuck no, he shouldn't have done that. I don't know why he did that. That is so frustrating. To this day, that is so frustrating. I don't understand why Tappei did that. Maybe Hoshin doesn't carry that much narrative implications, and we think he is more important than he isn't, but I just don't believe that. Next up is Subaru going up the stairs is the most overrated thing within ReZero. Small arc 6, or I guess pretty big arc 6 spoilers here, so skip to whatever point in the video to avoid such if you're not at that point, but narratively speaking, I disagree, but like I also do agree. I don't really know how to feel about this, because the moment within ReZero, like when you are reading arc 6 and you get to that point and you're reading how Subaru's face is contorting and twisting, and you know, the psychological implications that are being imposed from everything he has just previously gone to, and the scenes just before that where he is literally like mentally destroying and beating himself down over and over and over again about, you know, how he was in his old world, and how, you know, praying to God to just please let him go back and stuff like that, all for it to accumulate in Subaru walking up those stairs. And especially I think what we see right after that being that everyone is dead, what Subaru sees, and he feels sick, and you know, you get a real implication that, you know, this Natsuki Subaru that, you know, may be showing himself right now is deep down not the real Natsuki Subaru, and this isn't how Subaru feels. It is, you know, the mental, you know, the miasma is also in there on top of that we have to mention that. All this type of external factors and the trauma he is going to is contorting him into this, and I think it is a very good representation of such psychological trauma. My bad, I can't speak. And you know, all that type of stuff, and I feel like Tappei does a really good job at portraying it. That all being said, there are so many more greater moments within arc 6. I do agree with this comment on that regard. I'm being honest, people just glaze this moment because it's a pretty cool drawing. I'll give it to the illustrator. It looks pretty cool. Subaru looks silly. It's something that is very out of character for him, and you know, people just meme it and stuff like that. A lot of it's just the fake readers on TikTok who, you know, go along and just see the images and see the fan art and are like, oh my god, this looks sick, and they make the little edits where they'll have like some like random Ifrat Subaru like greed or gluttony tied into that, and it has like absolutely no correlation. But I mean, yeah, not really a hot take, but a take that I do mostly agree with. Another one that will contain spoilers for arc 7 and arc 6 ending, so again, you know, skip just ahead to the next section if you don't want to see this. But this take I actually find very interesting. I haven't really seen many people come out with this perspective, that being that, you know, Ram was horrible to Subaru during these arcs in a way that didn't even feel realistic, and I have to agree a bit, but I don't think it was bad writing in a sense that the comment I feel like is trying to portray it. But I do think Tappei went a bit overboard in the point he was trying to execute towards Subaru, as Ram's actions towards Subaru are just nasty, to say the least. They are nasty at times within this arc, and to be fair, as seen previously, that is kind of just the person Rem is when she doesn't know you that well. You know, but I do agree with this comment within a sense. I felt like Tappei went a bit overboard with what he was trying to portray, and yeah, I mean, I feel like the same points could have been implemented without her being the way she was to him at times and just being rude for no reason. Next one I want to talk about is Subaru and Emilia is a horrible, unfitting couple. I disagree with this so heavily, so heavily. I get on a surface level where you could see that these two, may be very unhealthy and toxic for each other, and there's not much, love or narrative implications there. But I feel like when you look past that lens, and really what the moment that confirmed it for me that these two were good for each other was both of their backstories. They are both two characters who struggle with identity-based issues and problems, but within the opposite sense. Within Subaru's backstory, we see he is constantly struggling with being compared to a pillar of hope, a beacon within his life, having to live up to that mantle, that being his own father. I know in a retrospect, Subaru's father isn't like the president or anything crazy, but for Subaru, the implications that it carried to live up to somebody in that family name who was such a great person within the community and well respected, the weight that carried and the implications it put upon Subaru's own identity and his struggle with not really knowing who he was as a person, which led to him becoming a bit of a hikikimori as he tried to fit into every broad, sense within the world, led to who he was within the ReZero world and led to his confrontations with Emilia, and it's all just built upon that identity issue. And within the same sense, Emilia is the same, but with the opposite perspective, being that while Subaru was compared to this beacon of hope, Emilia is compared to the literal devil of her world, somebody that if you even bear the name of is akin to Voldemort and Harry Potter, and clearly gives Emilia identity issues and leaves her struggling a bit with, on top of this, she not being able to even come to terms with her own memories and the person she was beforehand. They are two characters who complete each other in the sense that they both struggle with identity issues, but when they are together, they are able to conform to each other's identities and confirm each other's persons as a whole. While in the start of ReZero, this wasn't the case, being that Emilia could never really fully understand where Subaru was coming from, and Subaru constantly was thwarting on her and not actually confirming her as a full person. Within their growth and development, they learn to fully come to terms with Emilia, for one, being able to reconcile with the fact that Subaru won't always be able to tell her everything and that she is just going to have to trust him. And on top of this, too, Subaru realizing and coming to terms with the fact that Emilia is a full person, her own person, who struggles with her own identity issues and who is not perfect. And Emilia knows she is not perfect, and Subaru finally being able to tell her to her face that she's not perfect, and her getting that confirmation that Subaru is not just going to essentially suck up to her all the time within their argument within Arc 4, I feel like has really thrusted their relationship forward and put them into the limelight and the prime spot. And honestly, I think it is one of the best written relationships within media, within anime, all of that type of stuff. So I just don't agree with this comment. I don't really see where you could be coming from. I get on a surface basis level, if you only watch season 1 of the anime, Subaru is a bit random within his actions, but the further you go into it, the moment you get their backstory, things start piecing together and things start making sense. You gotta remember, Tappei literally started writing ReZero because he wanted to write about a character such as Emilia. Next one, Crusch is best girl and is heavily underutilized. I do agree with this. I think Crusch's backstory and her dynamic with Felix is one that is very interesting. The fact that they switched their roles and stuff like that, all that sort of stuff, her, confrontation with the royal family and the person she was within Arc 3, I feel like there is a good story to play there that Tappei's not really tapping into yet, but I think we'll get more of it later on. One thing that is kind of annoying about ReZero that I will say is how long we have to go without seeing these characters. I mean, when was the last time we saw Crusch? We saw her within Arc 5. That was it. We're on Arc 9 and we really haven't seen these characters, and Tappei's just gonna throw him back in like it's nothing. No, it's not really his fault, and it takes time to write a story, and like I said, he did get a bit sidetracked of Arc 7 and Arc 8, but it just kind of sucks how long we have to stray away from these characters, and I wish he did, keep up with these other side characters and these plot points more, which he does within the side stories, but, I mean, yeah. One more that I want to talk about for today, small Arc 7 spoilers, although it's nothing that crazy, really. Within Arc 7, Subaru gets Shotified, and this comment right here says that Arc 7 Shotbaru is one of the most underrated and under talked about, aspects of ReZero, being that it showed what Subaru could have been like without his identity issues. And I actually do agree with this. I feel like it is a great representation of the kid that Subaru once was, and that his identity and all that type of stuff went into, and his backstory, and the kid that was running around, and how smart he really was, even though that this Shoto ability was supposed to, nullify your brain progression and stuff like that, or whatever, how it worked for Olbart. I felt like it was a great representation of what Subaru could have been and his true identity. It adds just another layer and another aspect in which Tappei will, put in effect to Subaru's character and almost show us a canonized what if of what Subaru could have been like. And this was just the implications of Arc 7, which, as we know, is very polar opposite of what Subaru was like within Arc 6. It's kind of like a parallel reflection of each other. Within Arc 6, we saw Subaru without his memories, but after the identity crisis has taken place, within Arc 7, we see a, Shoto version of Subaru who has his memories, but no longer has this like identity crisis running rampant through him. And we get a great representation and a great, juxtaposition to that previous Subaru and just how smart and, anticipation, full Subaru could really be. So yes, I greatly agree with this comment. Last one I'm gonna do for today is ReZero is amazing, but I heavily dislike the art style. I do agree with this. I wish that they didn't draw so many childlike arts. I wish that the art style was a bit more clean. I'm not gonna lie, I think ReZero, if it had a different art style, would have a much wider and broad appeal with this. So I do agree. But that about does it for the video today. Thank you guys for watching. If you want me to make a part 2 to this, let me know, because there was a lot more hot takes that I didn't quite go over yet. It's just, this video is getting pretty long and it's going to take a while to edit. So, I mean, yeah, I'm lazy. What else can I say? Like I said, thank you guys for watching, and anyways, peace.